Welcome to another one of Mr. C's History Hits. Today's history hit comes to us from the Civil War, specifically the greatest naval battle of the Civil War. And that's really not a high bar to get over because mostly the Civil War was fought on land, but there were a couple of naval engagements, and this is one of the first ones and probably the most important, especially for its implications for the world. I'm talking about the Battle of Hampton Roads. You tell me you've never heard of it? Well, you probably haven't, but how about the Monitor and the Merrimack? Does that sound familiar? This is the battle where that took place, and it's March 8 and 9 of 1862, so we're still fairly early in the war. The Union has blockaded the South, and the South, the Confederacy, needs to break the blockade in order to be able to trade with other nations in the world. It's the only way they can really get money, and they need this money to be able to buy guns and build their factories to give them a chance to win the war. The Confederacy comes up with kind of an interesting plan. They take an old ship called the Merrimack, and they refit it entirely as an Ironside, but not just any kind of Ironside. This is just sort of a squat, angled, strange, almost spaceship looking kind of thing with guns all around a central platform in the middle of the boat. They rechristened it the CSS Virginia, but the name didn't really stick, and they called it the Merrimack. Everybody just called it that. They also built it with a heavy iron prow on the front, and driven by steam, this was essentially a seaborne battering ram. They took it out and smashed a couple of the Union blockading ships, sank two of them, and was headed after a third, a ship called the Minnesota that had run aground trying to get away from the Merrimack. But the tide was falling and it was getting dark, and so they went back to get their ship refitted, get new coal on board, and take care of their one or two wounded. Pretty much they'd suffered no casualties all day and sunk two Union ships. When they went back out on March 9, 1862, they were met with a surprise because the Union countered with its most advanced ship. Not the USS Constitution, old Ironsides, you remember that ship from the War of 1812. But no, this is a ship called the Monitor. This is almost entirely a submarine, a design that had never been seen before, built entirely clad in iron. This is a ship that resisted the battering ram of the Merrimack, but also had its own offensive armament in a cylinder that stuck up out of the deck and allowed its single gun, pretty heavy gun, to swivel 360 degrees because of its innovative design. For 3 hours on the 9th of March, these two ships sat in Hampton Roads, the mouth of the Chesapeake, just off the coast of what's Norfolk, Virginia right now, and pounded on each other without either ship being able to gain any kind of an advantage. So it goes to becoming a Union victory, because all the Union has to do really is maintain the blockade. And the Confederacy was never able to break the Union blockade. And slowly, they starved to death, pretty much. But I guess you could say that the ship, the Merrimack, got the last laugh. In a movie called Sahara, just a few years back, starring Matthew McConaughey, a ship very much like the Merrimack shows up in that movie as a Confederate ship designed for carrying a secret shipment of Confederate gold. And it ends up in Africa. I won't tell you any more about it because, frankly, it's a terrific movie and you should watch that. After this battle, it became pretty obvious to all of the world's navies that they had better get with this whole ironclad program, as wooden ships just couldn't stand up to these kinds of ships in battle. And by the end of the 1800s, the early part of the 1900s, all the ships, all the main naval ships of everybody's navy in the world were clad in iron. But this is the first clash between two fully ironclad ships. It still kind of looks like something out of a science fiction novel today. That's Mr. C's history hit for today, the Battle of Hampton Roads, or the Monitor versus the Merrimack. Join me next time, and we'll see you then. You can get more of Mr. C, the history hits, plus a much more in-depth analysis of the Civil War and other topics in U.S. history on the Patreon page. Just over there. There's a link. Love to see you there. Thanks for watching.